This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the Tuesday, September 10, 2019 work session, regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Councilwoman Kimberly Francois. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing.
O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our supplications. Thy infinite love and mercy, grant us the strength and power in our thoughts. All people at all times. Let us take silence to remember those who lost their lives during 9/11 and to acted also by Now let us all each seek in our own way whatever sources of inspiration will grant us the power in our thoughts and decisions to be about people at all. God bless the people that all the people that have served.
Very moving, Councilwoman. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Galtieri.
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Onijaka.
Here.
Councilman Prasad.
Here.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Vassanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
We are now on to commendations and proclamations, of which there are none. So we are on to item number 6, public discussion. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public. 5 minutes per speaker, no yielding of time. Please address the council. We all know the drill. State your name and address.
Sure. Okay, there it is. Okay. Beverly Lawson, 2004 Amwell Road. I'm just up here tonight just to give props where props are due for Miss Councilman Francois. I was there for the opening, the groundbreaking of the new youth center. So I'm here to give you your congratulations. Job well done. Thank you. This has been a long day coming. I know that for you. Because like I said, when my son was little, we were talking about it, and it was like, well, it's going to come someday, someday. He's 23 now. It's not really going to help him, but for everybody else out there, my little nephews, you know, they're just starting school, so this will be a great thing for them. So I'm just here to say congratulations.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Ms. Ball.
Hello, Linda Powell, 22 Buffer Drive. First of all, I remember when Mayor Kramer announced the pothole campaign, and I never really looked into it, but finally I was looking on the website, and I see there's a button right there in the middle, and there was this sinkhole on Skillman's that I thought was really dangerous because it was right before the second curve, and people were going over to the left, and people were coming around to the right. So I finally put it in a few days before the Labor Day weekend, and by the time I went back to work the next week, it was all fixed. So thank you for that. That was great work for whatever department was doing it.
Public Works.
Mr. Vornlocker went out there and fixed it himself.
I did not. That's not true. Props where props are due. Public Works.
And I also want to let people know, as you probably know, we've been fighting a compressor station here in Franklin for over 3 years now, and a pipeline expansion under Raritan Bay. And there's going to be a rally this weekend down on the Bayshore side, at Marine Pier in Red Bank from 10:30 to 12. And right after that is the Clearwater Music Festival. So if people can join us, that would be great. There's more information on our website, which is scrap, SCRAP Nessie, NESE.org. I especially want to thank the council, everyone on the council, including former councilwoman Raj Sherman and former Deputy Mayor Chanel Robinson, as well as our current newer council members, Crystal Pruitt and Will Galateri, have been involved from the beginning in signing letters, agreeing on resolutions against this project. And our township manager, Bob Vornlucker, has sent in reams and reams of letters that have been written mainly by the steering committee of the task force. And especially I wanted to thank our council liaisons, Councilman Prasad and Councilman Chase, for standing by us and helping us out. But special thanks goes to Mayor Kramer for all he's done, been in constant contact with me, contacting other mayors and other townships to get involved, and to Assemblyman Danielson, who's also been in the fight from the beginning and has even had a resolution in the Assembly, or tried to get it into the Assembly. He got it out of committee against this project, which is potentially extremely polluting, is it definitely would impact the climate crisis and dig up all these toxins that have been buried underneath the bay for 30 years, as well as being a safety and health hazard for people in town here. So thank you all for sticking with me, and make sure you sign and email in the latest letter that we sent out, which may be our last thing, because the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has to decide on the permits by September 25th. So thanks again.
So, Ms. Powell, you may not realize it, Linda? You may not realize it, but item J on the consent agenda is for you, not you personally, for your cause. If you read it, it reads like we're giving him.
It reads like it's for me, but
Yeah.
it's really not.
It reads like we're giving him another $30,000, but that's money basically to go for the defense.
Oh, great, because I think we're going to need that.
Yep,
Thanks a lot.
you bet. Bye-bye. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Skip Schaefer, 2 Laird Terrace. Good evening. So much to cover, so little time. So let's start with the predictably stupid comments from Mr. Prasad at last month's meeting. We are all again treated to his tired soliloquy of he's not resigning because the voters want him to remain. It is the will of the people. Obviously, even he doesn't believe his own words, since he has neither the courage or the conviction to face the voters again in November. Don't get me wrong, we appreciate your cowardice. He also made statements regarding criticism of himself over the last 4 or 5 years, that he was innocent until proven guilty, that this criticism is nothing more than insinuations and innuendos. He must be in complete denial of the fact that the public has his very own council emails where he calls people Nazis and skinheads, asks the police chief to investigate residents and tries to get the FBI to do the same, tells the Martin Luther King Foundation that Franklin Republicans don't want colored statues in town, something he has still not apologized for to either the foundation or to the township, and a bunch of other unethical indiscretions too numerous to mention here. Without a doubt, he is the most corrupt, unethical, lying person to ever sit on Franklin's council. If anybody needs confirmation, affirmation, validation, or certification of my words about your tenure, they frequently get it a few minutes after I sit down and the village idiot strolls up here to sing your praises. The same person who is a self-avowed racist and who has called multiple council people, including the mayor, racist. That is the will of the people you hide behind, sir. Thankfully, you'll be gone soon, just not soon enough. Mr. Anyajaka, last month I asked you if you were a leader or a follower. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said you're neither. You just want to serve your community. And, sir, that answer is unacceptable. We don't need warm bodies to sit in on committee meetings and do nothing else that provides value to the township. We need leaders up there. Once in a while, some friends and I get together to play cards. Sometimes you're dealt a good hand, sometimes you're dealt a hand that you can possibly turn into a good hand, and sometimes you're dealt a hand that is useless and you can't do anything with, so you immediately fold. The term around the table for that kind of hand is an Anyajaka hand, because it has no value. Sir, if you're not going to be a leader on council, please do not run for re-election. It's quite obvious that today you are little more than a guaranteed vote in someone's pocket up there.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one else coming forward, a motion to close the public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
That's only two people. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. We have no, I'm sorry, we do have council comments. Council comments. Mr. Wright, how about if we start with you? Is that okay?
I'd love to.
Great.
First and foremost, let me just say, this past Sunday at a Pop Warner football game at Middlebush Park for the 12 and under teams, we had two accidents, two issues. One, a gentleman for Franklin, Amir Glover, he broke his arm, and at the same play, Darius Armstrong for South River suffered a concussion. Needless to say, they were both serious enough that we stopped the game with about 12 minutes left, held up all type of things, but the kids were the most important thing than the game. Our concussion protocol says that once a player suffers that, there's no movement. And we wait till the ambulance shows up to, take care of them. And I want to thank the ambulance service because they were real quick. They weren't there, but they were real quick in showing up. I'd like to thank the Franklin Township Police Department that they were not there, but when you looked up, they were. And they took care of the situation, and for that, we're grateful. So that takes care of that. Speed humps. I know we talked about speed humps before, but the residents, they want speed humps. So what I'm going to do is work up the streets that want the speed humps and streets that I think we need speed humps on. And I'm going to pass that along to Public Works and Public Safety. And we have a particular system in place with the police department to figure out what streets need them, where they're speeding, and that we could possibly place them. But there's a lot of things that go on with that, so we're going to give it to those two committees and have them vet the whole system out. For the Franklin Little League baseball team, fence netting. They have the 2 posts put up for the netting, so all that's required is for us to put the fence in. So what I want to do, and with the council backing up here, we're going to ask our township manager to look into putting the netting in place. I don't know the cost. We'll possibly go to open space for them to have a crack at it, but we're going to need to put the netting in to protect citizens and those that are players that come to the game. Also, in the same light, we want to put up the lights for the fields. They're the senior fields, and we want to put lights up. I went around and I talked to the neighbors as to whether or not the lights would bother them, what time, do we have to turn them off, things of that nature. I thoroughly went through the neighborhood to make sure that it wouldn't be a problem, because they're less than, at one corner, less than 25 feet from the light. So that was an important thing for me, to make sure that the lights wouldn't bother him. So again, we're going to direct our township manager to come back with a proposal for those lights, that at the next council meeting, we can vote on it. And that's about it, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you want to take your second swipe now, or?
I'll get back to it.
Time's up. Okay, Mr. Chase.
Okay, I realized that the July 24th Land Use Committee meeting never got reported on at our August meeting. I didn't have my notes with me then, and I do now. Of course, some things have developed since then. I mean, we had extensive discussion of parking at the Little League field, lights, the netting, which Councilman Wright has covered pretty well. But there's things like how high should the lights be for the senior field, but the Director of Public Works is looking into that. The status of farmland preservation, open space acquisition, and historic properties was reviewed. The historic easement on the Dunn House is scheduled for the September meeting of the State Historic Preservation Office. We submitted our proposal in February, but they are severely understaffed and things move very slowly through that office. And this is our proposal is to put a historic preservation easement on the house and then go through the necessary procedures, which involve what's called the State House Committee that meets once a year, to be able to sell this house to somebody in the private sphere with the easement on it, because it's a very nice house. It's something that somebody should really want. It needs a certain amount of work. It's a lot more expensive for the township to do this work because of various rules than it would be for a private party to do this. But everybody who's been in that house, a lot of them, the manager, for instance, has said he'd just love to move in there, and bright and full of light. And we think it'll really be better preserved that way. We've gotten these historic houses in various ways, sometimes just with land that was given us, and we realize now they're an expense to keep maintained, even at the lowest level. Even mothballing the Gunter House, it's an expense. We discussed in the ordinance concerning the proposed storage facility on the site of Frank's Building Supplies. We had extensive discussion of the proposed plan for having the storage facility there is to extend Myrtle Avenue to the site so the traffic can come in and go out that way, but concern was expressed about putting excessive traffic onto Juliet, which is a residential street. Conclusion was we could say no left turn out of that onto Juliet, but to make Myrtle one way is not, because there are houses fronting on that stretch. We also discussed an ordinance allowing churches in the infill residential part of the redevelopment zone, because otherwise churches there could not even apply for a use variance in a redevelopment zone, and there is one church in that zone, so this will make things slightly easier for the Macedonia Baptist Church if they need to do anything with their property. Of course, we just had a Public Works meeting. I was late getting there because in the fall semester I teach at Rutgers till 5:15, and the meeting was supposed to start at 5, and I can't get here till 5:45 from my class. But one thing is the problem with the state contractor on Route 27 at the 10-mile run brook, just south of 518, they still have not been able to connect up the pipe without a leak. So we still can't lift the boil water advisory for the people down that line. The reason why it's a boil water advisory is until we get the proper final pipe in there replacing what runs under the bridge that they're going to take down, we have a surface level bypass pipe, and a surface level pipe out in the sun gets hot, the water gets hot, and any bacteria present would be likely to multiply, so we think it's safest. The water's still perfectly good, and it's connected up to the township water supply now rather than to South Brunswick, but for safety's sake, we still have this boil water advisory. We've been delivering bottled water to the houses down that line, but this is a contractor hired by the state. We can't do anything about him. We'd like to have our contractor do the work and send the bill to the state. The state hasn't agreed to that. Also, we're waiting for pumps for the pumping station just north of there because they originally sent the wrong pumps. It's an 8 to 12 week waiting period for pumps. I guess they're constructed individually. So we had to send back the pumps they sent and wait through another period. And when those pumps come and when the line through there will take pressure, then the Little Rocky Hill Waterline project will finally be finished. Meanwhile, we're moving ahead with plans to connect up the other end of that line to the New Jersey American Water Line in Kingston down at Raymond Road. And we've had a meeting with Trop Rock about having a pumping station by the entrance to the Trop Rock Quarry from Route 27. I guess that went well, but now we have to talk further with New Jersey American Water before we can put in, really start designing that line. But this is something that will give us greater protection, and in the present situation, if we'd had this, we could be supplying all those houses from the other end, and we wouldn't have such pressure from the work, or lack of pressure from the work being done by the state's contractor. So I think that's, trying to think if there's anything else to report on. There are open space and development rights purchases are all moving ahead well. Particularly and noteworthily, development rights on the Terhune Farm, which we've been working on since 2007. Finally happening. In fact, on our agenda tonight, we have provisions for paying for those development rights purchases. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Chase. Councilman Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 9/11 ceremony we just had, thank you to all our special events staff. They did a great job, and kudos to everyone, including the manager, for getting it done. Nice, Ms. Powell, the deadline is the 25th, and we have to get our comments in to the DEP, where they make the final decision, and we could kill it there if we can. So getting our comments into the DEP is important, and all the details are there in our website. And now the Community Foundation meets next week, this coming week, next week, and land use has already been reported on.
We didn't have land use in August.
Right, this was July meeting, and the HRC met, and we talked about the 2020 census and the help that they're going to provide in assistance to the clerk. And admin had no meeting. And some residents have requested that they would like to be able to pay for the speeding signs where you put up the sign in case people are speeding through. So that is something that we may want to consider looking into, where the residents want to pay for it and get the sign so that the speeding stops. So that's something to consider. And that's about it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just got a text message that I'm talking to the videographer that we're not streaming. I have no idea if you have control of that or not. If you do, please do what you can. If not, maybe Warnlocker can contact our IT person. It's computer error? Okay, but we are recording. Okay, so you are aware and we are working on it. All right, thank you. Ms. Francois.
Okay, as it was said earlier, we did have a youth center groundbreaking ceremony on August 15th. It was very well attended by the community. We didn't do much we didn't really send out that many invitations, but a lot of people came out. And there were lots of pictures that were taken, lots of great comments. And the Human Relations Commission was there. All of council was here, even the mayor. People took off work to be there, to be a part of the groundbreaking ceremony. And I continue to be encouraged by all of the interest and anxiety and anticipation of waiting for the ribbon cutting ceremony that's going to take place. That hopefully, right now we're still on target with the construction schedule sometime in September of 2020. And I even heard from Edna during the picnic we had on Saturday, and she came up with a great idea to have a quiet room in the youth center. So we're getting a lot of input, we're getting a lot of interest, and the nice thing about all of the interest is that people are coming up with ideas for our youth, and they're willing to take time out of their busy schedules and donate their time and their talent so that we can have volunteer services and programs in that youth center, and that's what we're really going to need. We want the kids to be able to come there and not have to pay fees to participate in a lot of activities and programs. So I continue to be encouraged by that, and as I'll continue to give out reports as we go along with the construction schedule. I also need to say thank you to our Franklin Township Police Department and the PBA for donating over 300 book bags to the Week of the People event that we had on August 24th. And it was very interesting. Literally a cyclone hit that day. There was wind that came out of nowhere, and the tents were flying all over the place. And our community police officers from Hamilton Street, they came in, they were there. They performed first aid. They helped out St. Peter's. It could have been a catastrophic event, but the police really stepped up and they really engaged with the kids. And I'm very thankful that we have the police department participating in our community events. And I just wanted to say thank you and express the gratitude for the book bags that they gave out. We gave out every one of those book bags every year. They've been helping us with the Week of the People event. There were over 20 youth performances there. We had good food. We had good weather. The mayor was there. Councilman Wright was there. He didn't get dunked this year. Usually he gets dunked, but we didn't do that this year. And the next event that's coming up that I'll be involved in, obviously, is the Trunk or Treat event that's going to be on October 26th. And that's another youth event that is sponsored by the Hamilton Street Advisory Board. So there's a lot of things going on here in Franklin Township with the youth, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Charles Onyecheka.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Skip Schaefer, last time you brought up this particular issue, I really don't want to get into it because I feel it's time for me. I need to maintain my integrity and civility. That is why I keep getting into it. But today, this time around, you brought it up again. I just want to let you know that you have only one vote, and you have only one consensus, and you have your only idea. I look at it because I feel what you plan or what your vision, you didn't get it. That is why you are going about. That's why you picked me as a scapegoat. The other day, I explained it to you that the council has its own procedure to handle their own issue, which I know you don't know. Yes, you don't know or you don't understand the process of the council. That is why you are doing what you're doing. Before, when you started this year movement, we have multitude of individuals here. We have a lot of people coming every day. But as time goes on, they allow the council to take care of the process and take their course. But you insisted constantly, conspicuously coming here just with your one-man placard to disrupt the process of the council. So I am not going to talk about this again because I am going to maintain my civility, I'm going to maintain my job, and I am not going to disappoint my word. All you have to do is, on the day of voting, you don't have to vote for Charles Onyecheka. Let me repeat it again. On the day of voting, you don't have to vote for me. Okay? So I don't want to see you here call my name again. Thank you. Mayor, the second issue I have here is we have the privilege to go to, last time, to visit Consolata with my African members and members of our community. And we look at what they're doing there. Very magnificent, very neat, and nice. And I use this privilege to thank Dr. John and Mrs. The board president, and also the council for giving that privilege of developing such a magnificent building. Today, another thing I have to say today is the 9/11 issue. I was so much, it was touchy, and I felt it so much, because we are talking about human lives being lost. It's very, very emotional. But I thought in my mind that I would easily get over this. But today I could not. I think we leave everything to the Almighty God we all worship in different forms, through different mediums. And I pray that their souls may rest in peace. And our prayers and thoughts will be to those families that lost their people. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Will Guterri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real briefly, last week I attended Sewage Authority. We had our monthly meeting, as well as we had to move up the Fire Prevention Board meeting to the first week due to the statewide fire convention down in in Wildwood for this week. And the same will happen next month, that fire prevention will be moved up because council has been moved to the second Thursday holiday. So my board meetings are a little out of schedule. The last one that I'll report on is Public Works Committee. As far as the Public Works Committee, Councilman Chase touched on the Little Rocky Hill water main update as well as the Kingston water extension. As far as what we're calling the 9th Street water main loop or Easton Farms area, that is at the final completion now for the season. I know that some people have asked about if Willow will be repaved and some of the other roads. Right now what happens is at the completion of the project, the road bed has to settle. So there is temporary pavement in there. It will be repaved in the spring. So unfortunately for the winter, it's sufficient. It's enough for the plows to go through and for cars to be safe enough passage. If a pothole appears, please report it as soon as possible and we will deal with it. But there will be a final paving done in the spring. So those roads are on the agenda to be done. As far as road paving, there are 2 sections of town. There's actually 3 projects which will be being done, what we're calling the Summerall Road area, the Mayor Road area, and then Cottontail will be paved. It will be done at night so as not to disrupt the businesses and industries over there, but that will be an overnight paving. Fortunately, there are no residents over there, but be aware that that's going to be done. And then there's 2 areas which will be deferred into the spring so that we're not trying to pave as it hopefully does not snow in November this year, but go through like we did last year of the Arlington Ave area and Henry. Mr. Mayor, that is it. Unless you want me to report on these.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Mr. Manager, you had a furrowed brow. Do you need?
Well, so actually, I was wondering if I'll just say, as far as paving is concerned, I was wondering if Councilman Galtieri was going to mention the October paving of Amwell Road by the county that should have come up. I wasn't at the meeting, but it should have been brought up at the meeting.
So it was skipped during the meeting just because we were rushing through, but thank you for reminding me because I did see those reports come through. So yes, Amwell Road between, I believe, Cedar Grove and DeMott will be repaved, is scheduled to be repaved. And I'm sure we'll send out Nixle notifications.
Well, there'll be notifications going out to the public. The county has that on their agenda for October to be paved, and that will be paved at night, and that's why I bring it up to your attention now.
Thank you. Yes, other than that, I don't have anything.
Yeah, there was once an incident, an accident on that portion of Amwell Road. It was amazing how much that road is a vital artery that things shut down when that, so I'm glad that's going to be paved at night. Councilwoman Pruitt.
Well, I'll be brief. A couple of the committees that I was on didn't actually meet, so Fire Chiefs was canceled because several of our chiefs were deployed for rain response. Health Advisory, there was no meeting, but they will be meeting before the next council meeting on the 24th of September. Councilwoman Francois talked about Hamilton Street. There's a lot of exciting projects coming up, and it's going to be really nice. As far as other things around the township, I was able to attend the Splash Park ribbon cutting. I got to see the mayor get wet, so never thought I'd see that. So I participated in the clap-in for Franklin High School at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I think the kids looked how I felt that early, but I was able to clap because I was able to go back home and take a nap. But it was really exciting, you know. And I also was able to attend the H.H. Gregg ribbon cutting, and I apparently will get an opportunity to check out their warehouse over at the convention center, so I'm looking forward to that. It seems like we will be having, we had a financial oversight meeting, and we will be having a public safety meeting the 24th. So in the spirit of keeping it brief, you're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and now our illustrious Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
So, just so there's no confusion, thank you for the Public Works report, Councilman. Just, there's no confusion. Fall of 2019, following roads, this fall, before the weather turns, barring anything beyond our control, Fort Street, Pembroke Court, Epping Court, Dorset Court, Corwin Court, Barmont Court, Summerall Road, Webster Road, Vince Road. You should see that happening literally in the next few weeks, this fall. You have Stephen Drive, Park Lane, Baylor Street, Mayor Road, Franklin Street, and Cottontail. And I know there's a lot of people, so we're waiting on a handful of others. They're going to be done the first go around in the spring, and I'm just going to give those real quick. Dayton Avenue from Oakland to Franklin Boulevard, Arlington Avenue from Easton Avenue to Highland, Shelley Drive, Girard Avenue from Belmar to DE, which I'm not sure what that is. Dead End. Thank you. Well, that's what I was thinking, Delaware, but I wasn't going to say. I'm sorry. Kyle Road, Surrey Road, Rodney Avenue from Arlington to Oakland, Burger Street from JFK to the Dead End, Spruce Street, Ellen Street from Berry to the Dead End, Key Avenue, Henry Street, Sydney Place, Vassar Street, Cuzzett Street, Byron Place, and Rose Street. And a lot of those I just named that will be done early spring. I know they're residential roads and people have been waiting. So it's all in the works. Money's been authorized. Simply, we could only do so much till the weather. So that first grouping will be done next couple months, the others early in the spring. We're very, very busy in making sure all of our roadways, I'm going to say, are up to the standard of when they get to a certain point, we want them repaved, repaired, whatever needs to be. And we are getting very close. And that's the latest update. The only other thing I was going to mention is, thank you to the Cub Scouts from Pack 195 that came out tonight. The Cub Scouts and Weeblos. And actually that ties in with what the only comment I was going to make about 9/11. You know, I saw them there, and God knows, I guess they're anywhere from like 5 to 11, I think, is the range. And I was wondering from most of that ceremony, what's going on in their head? What do they see this as? And maybe it's not the right comparison, but I was thinking about when I was a kid in Pearl Harbor, and, you know, I knew my father was in combat in World War II. And, you know, you really can't understand it, but I think you realize it's something serious and somber. And, you know, I hope they don't have to be in our shoes and have kids of their own or others that are there for another tragic event. So hopefully they'll grow up in a different world. Thank you.
Nice.
A better world.
Nice sentiment. Nice sentiment, Deputy Mayor. Okay. So H.H. Gregg, Councilwoman mentioned that. For those of you who don't know about it, it's near on the Cedar Grove Shopping Center, kind of near where Starbucks is. Think of it as a small Best Buy with personalized service. And you know, you don't have to order something over the internet, and you don't have to drive to Bridgewater to get a camera. You can touch it and, you know, try it out a little bit. So I think that's a terrific addition to the town. And between there and the warehouse and their computer center, they're employing 130 people. So that was a great ribbon cutting. I went to the food bank version of Woodstock this past weekend, a fundraiser. I heard they raised $25,000 with the Smithereens. And I'm not from New Jersey, so that doesn't mean quite as much to me as it does to many of you. But it was quite a little event there, and I have a feeling it's going to grow and grow and grow, and I can't wait till next year. I have here several letters. They actually keep coming in about people giving thanks to the police department for the youth academy, and particular Sergeant Almora, but the others that were involved. And I think we need to remember Councilwoman Francois, who was involved in the origination of that. It's the Franklin Youth Academy, where for a week, those of you who don't know about it, children come and learn a bit about our police force, involved in calisthenics, things like that. It's quite a little thing, and they always have to turn people away. It's become so popular. Let me off here. The hurricane, you know, it didn't hit us, of course, and it didn't hit the United States that severely, though I'm sure there's some people in North Carolina who would disagree with that, but it could have been much worse. But our neighbors on the islands are just, it's horrible. And so anything you can do, there's a number of sites you can donate to. I know my wife and I have donated, but it's just devastating. The financial oversight meeting was last week, and it consisted of us reviewing the audit. The township, you know, there's the budget, and we figure out what to do with the money, but state law, we have to have the township audited every year. This was a new auditor, and so it's great you get a fresh look, and we did very, very well. We are in terrific financial shape, and very, very good job, Mr. Manager. You get the credit, and you would get the blame for any problems, but you get the credit this time. And 9/11, of course, moving experience. Thank you, Mr. Prasad and Mr. LaCourte and Mr. Vornlacher for that memorial. And I stole the line from somewhere I read on the internet. You know, 9/11 was a horrible thing, but I do miss 9/12 because we were so united at that time. And I hope we can get back to being united again. Councilman Only Jacob mentioned the tour we gave of some people who were interested of the community center that's at Consolata. This was one of the great things that I'm very proud of that happened with the town buying the Consolata property, doing a land swap with the Board of Ed. We got a great deal on the land. We passed that great deal on to the Board of Ed. We lost money in that land swap, but the Board of Ed made money in it. But it doesn't matter. It's all taxpayers' money. So we basically shared in a huge service, shared service. We benefited the town. The building is moving along, and it sounds like sometime in late October we'll be able to announce a definitive date at the next council meeting. We're going to have a town hall meeting, probably in the Franklin Park School. I got it right that time, Mr. Manager. The Franklin Park School will have a town hall meeting of anyone who wishes to come to give input as to what they want that community center to look like, just as the councilwoman did with the youth center, so that it's not just us sitting up here saying this or that. We'll get input from the community. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then the last thing is I will be out of town on the 16th because I will be celebrating my mother's 99th birthday.
Ooh.
She is,
Yeah, you're invited.
she, knock on wood, still lives in her own house, drives, has her wits about her, was mowing her lawn until 2 years ago. She's really ruining my retirement plan because I've got to save a lot of money because she's going to make me live a long, long time. But God bless you, Mommy, and we'll be seeing you this coming weekend. And that is it for my report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. Reminder to all of those who are interested in registering for fall recreation programs. The programs are now currently available online or at the Recreation Center here in the municipal complex. So whether it be an adult program or youth program, check it out online and see if there's something you might be interested in. On September 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there is a free senior expo at the senior center for residents age 55 and over. Health screenings, educational workshops, entertainment service providers, and much more. If you're interested in that, again, there'll be things like an elder law attorney there to answer any questions regarding legal issues, some health-related issues, exercise for those over 55, Social Security presentation. And so if you are at 55 and over and interested, please visit the website for more information. The farmers market will once again be at the corner of Amwell Road and DeMott Lane this Saturday. I encourage anyone who is interested in getting fresh produce or other items to visit the farmers market. It will be there this Saturday, the following Saturday, and then the last Saturday for this year will be at on the 28th of September in Colonial Park, as opposed to here at Franklin Day Festival. So also keep that on your calendars. Franklin Day Festival will be on the 28th of September. And then just, I know several council people have thanked me for the 9/11 service and the 9/11 memorial and all of those things. I have a small part, and I am the manager, and I had a small part in today, much smaller than in previous years. I would like to thank Wendy White, one of our recreation program coordinators, and Safi Callan, our special projects manager. I used to do that job, and it can be somewhat time-consuming. You don't think it would be. It's just a short service, but to get invitations out and brochures done, the programs done, and all of the things that are necessary. And it is a wonderful feeling as the township manager to have staff that are beyond capable, but are exemplary in doing these events. Franklin Day Festival, Memorial Day, all of those things that I used to do, and I know how much work goes into them, and they are excellent at doing it, and I am very, very, very appreciative to have them on our staff and to do that work. And I am also very appreciative to the Public Works Department, and in particular Carl Hauk. That monument is his creation. And he put his heart and soul into it when it was designed and built, and it was built in-house, something that we don't do ordinarily. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm very proud of him and his crew that continue to maintain it, and all of the thanks should go to them. So I am very thankful. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I would also like to point out that we invited 2 different imams to participate in the ceremony, but because it is a holiday, they were unable to attend. Okay, we are moving on to council discussion items. There are none. Approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes for approval by the Township Council work session regular meeting of August 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. and the executive session of that same meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, any corrections? Hearing, seeing none. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella. Councilman Wright.
Okay, time to pay the bills. Warrants in the amount of $22,916,486.47 on September 10th, 2019 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull or ask about an item? Hearing none, and I used to have the question when I sat out there about it. If we have a $60 million budget, how could we be paying $22 million in just 1 month? And that's because we collect the money for the county, for the school boards, and some of this is passed through to them. It's not all money that we are spending. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella. Councilman Wright.
We're now on to item number 12, public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. First reading is essentially a reading where we announce to the world that we are going to consider a certain ordinance, and the second reading is when we vote to pass it or not, and we give the opportunity to residents to speak at a public session for that ordinance. So ordinance 4292-19, bond ordinance providing for various 2019 capital improvements and equipment acquisitions by and in the Township of Franklin and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, appropriating $4.15 million, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $4.15 million bonds or notes of the water utility of the Township to finance the cost thereof, is presented for the public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion?
Motion for public hearing?
So, seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. All in favor of public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are open to public discussion on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, a motion to close the public hearing portion of this ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Public discussion is closed. So this is basically a bond to pay for various capital improvements of the water department. And you may have heard about this. Sounds like we're doing this again. We had to re-advertise it. There was technical snafu in our advertising, so we're bringing it up again. Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion on the item? Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4293-19, capital ordinance appropriating $270,000 from the Open Space Trust Fund to pay for the Cornelius Stouthoff House stabilization and mothballing for the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, and sorry, I'm stuck on that. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one from the public come forward, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Chase.
I just want to point out that this is what I referred to earlier as the Gunther House after the last occupants were the Gunthers, who lived well into their 90s. After the Hovnanian development of a great deal of the township west of Franklin Park had included their property and the Dunhouse property, but these were passed to the township with life rights to live there for the occupants, who all lived well into their 90s. So it's only fairly recently that the township has really had to do something about them. But the Gunther House, Stuthoff House in the ordinance, we're going to mothball and hopefully later decide something we can do with it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? And
No,
the-
it's just our portion of it is 270. There's others who are paying as
There's
well.
grant money.
Yeah.
So I think the ordinance is pretty self-explanatory, paying to mothball on historic property. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Item number C, ordinance 4294-19, an ordinance amending the municipal code of Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly repealing Section 226-9, temporary parking prohibition for snow plowing and removal, and adding Section 226-9, parking prohibited in snow emergencies, is presented for the public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed. So, yes? So, I was going to say something.
Oh,
So, and then you can speak. So what this is that during a snow emergency, people can't park on the streets except for 4 streets that are exempt in this ordinance. They would have to park in their driveways. I, by the way, did my due diligence, and you know, until something like this comes up, you don't notice who has a driveway and who doesn't. And I went about town and I noticed a number of houses not in those 4 exempt streets that do not have driveways, and I wondered where they would park and what they would have to do. And I talked to a few of them, and they were kind of bewildered as to what they would do, and I passed this on to the manager, and there was discussion about that. So there are some reservations about this ordinance.
yeah, so,
Mr. Vasanella.
thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to ask council to table it, mainly in general based on that and some other aspects of the language in the ordinance. So we're going to have to look and see the most practical way to put in the play this parking prohibition, which I think we all want to see. But we will be bringing it back. When I say we, the Public Works Committee discussed it today, and we'll be discussing it in the future, and hopefully.
I understand it.
Before we
So-
go on with further discussion.
Yeah,
It was just the
before there's
table.
further discussion, there's 2 things that I would like to say. One, I don't think that based on what was discussed, and I was not at the meeting, but I know it was discussed because I have the draft of what was discussed at Public Works, and based on the lengthy discussions that have taken place over the last 15 years about this ordinance, that we can't delay this process beyond a reintroduction of the ordinance at the next meeting, which has been discussed. I think that the exemption on an individual property basis that was proposed is more than satisfactory to meet the need for those stray properties that might have a lack of off-street parking that can be documented through an investigation of the Traffic Safety Bureau. And I think that the appropriate action here is not to table this ordinance, but to simply vote no. And then this, in effect, this ordinance amendment goes away, and a new ordinance amendment would be introduced at the next council meeting to make the necessary changes. But I'm going to defer that to the township attorney.
Actually, we're going to hold off from that because we have to have the public session first. We have to have a motion and a second before we can discuss, so I've kind of blown
You
Robert's
don't have to
rules.
have the public
No, you
session
don't.
first. We're doing this before the public session.
Right.
So that you may not need to have the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's why we.
So just the manager, I'm fine with whatever our counselor
Well,
recommends.
two-
He had suggested it be
I
tabled,
have
but
two suggestions.
let him
Yeah,
speak.
that's up to him,
I
not
think
me.
if in fact there's agreed upon language, one of the things you could do to speed the process is that you could amend it right now. You'll need to re-advertise for a public hearing.
Correct.
Because it's a substantial amendment, and then you could adopt it at the next meeting. So, you could do that, or you could do as you suggest, Mr. Manager, which is just simply introduce a new ordinance at the meeting. I don't know whether or not you're at a point where you have agreed upon language
I
at
don't
this
think we're
point in
ready
time.
to make those amendments.
Yeah, so in that case, then I think the manager is correct, that the thing to do then is to defeat this ordinance. Or, by the way, you could table it and just introduce a new. But in any event, then if you're not prepared to move forward with the amendment tonight, then you would have to, Mr. Manager, is not to take this off the table the next time. And, I mean, procedurally, you get to the same place in the same
Right.
time frame. Either way, you could do it, but you're gonna have to adopt that amendment at a meeting and then advertise and then hold a public hearing.
I think probably the easiest way is to make this go away and then reintroduce it as an ordinance amendment at the next meeting and then adopt it at the first meeting of October, which gives it ample opportunity for us to get what amounts to over 60 or 70 signs mounted that need to be done so that this ordinance can be enforced, and also get it advertised to the public prior to snow. And that's why we don't want to delay the process into November and December, because every entrance into the town needs to have a sign posted. And you may not think there are a lot of entrances to the
there are a
town,
lot.
but there are many, many, many entrances into the town, especially off of Route 27, every side street. So that's why there is some urgency in getting the changed version introduced. But all this does really is allow for additional exemptions that didn't exist in the ordinance that we were going to adopt tonight. So I don't think it's a dramatic change. It's just a change that allows for some additional exemptions that it didn't allow for previously.
Okay. So I would still like to open it to public session. Someone here may have a compelling reason why we should pass it tonight. So we advertise the public session. I'd like to entertain a motion to open for
So
public.
moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're open to public session on this item.
Seeing no one coming forward to speak, I'll motion to close the public portion on this.
Seconded.
For those of you who didn't catch that on TV, the manager was about to go to the microphone to say something. But now my angst is solved. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I can rest, my Robert's Rules of Order portion of my brain will rest easily tonight. Do I have a motion on the item? I guess if there's no motion, then it dies, and then we don't have to worry about whether it was.
Correct.
So is there a motion on the item? Hearing no motion, the item is defeated. Is that the correct term?
Correct.
And we are now moving on to ordinance 4295-19. Ordinance to acquire development rights, ordinance to acquire development rights by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, for the purposes of farmland preservation in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJS 40A 12-13A, also known as Four Barns Farm, Torhune Farm, and Pico's Farm, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, a motion to close the public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and
Ordinance.
seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. So this and the following three ordinances are basically about acquiring 3 parcels of land or acquiring the development rights of the 3 parcels of land so that they will be preserved for farmland. First is the acquisition ordinance, and then there's the separate bond ordinances for each one. And I want to just point out, the word condemnation is a term of art. We're not using eminent domain in any way for this. Any other discussion on this? Do we have a, I'm sorry, did I ask for a motion on it?
So
No.
moved.
Here we go.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on this? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes. Ordinance 4296-19, capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of development rights for property known as Block 8, lots 18.10-18.11, Four Barns Farm, in and by the Township of Franklin and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, appropriating $313,695 therefrom the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township of Franklin to pay for the cost thereof, is presented to Township Council for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open to the public on this item.
Mayor, seeing no one from the public come forward, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4297-19, capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of development rights for the property known as Block 19, Lot 36, and Block 33.01, Lots 16 through 17, in and by the Township of Franklin and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, appropriating $1,996,000 therefrom the Open Space Trust Fund for the Township of Franklin to pay for the cost thereof. The Torhune Farm is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public.
Mayor, seeing no one come forward from the public, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item?
I'd just like to point out that we will get money back from the state on State Agricultural Development Council on at least one and possibly more of the lots here where I think we're still negotiating. We were paying a little more than the state thought we should for 2 of the lots, but we will get a substantial amount of money back.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4298-19, capital ordinance providing for acquisition of development rights for property known as Block 10, Lot 6.02. This is the Pecos Farm in and about the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, appropriating $327,000 therefrom the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township of Franklin to pay for the costs thereof is presented for public hearing and final acquisition. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public.
Mayor, see no one from the public come forward. A motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. We have a motion on the item.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out that this is adjacent to several other plots that we've already preserved while Mrs. Pecos was alive. She didn't want to preserve her piece because she was very stubborn, but she having finally died at the age of 95, her executors do propose to have us preserve it. And it's, these fields are being farmed by a farmer from Montgomery Township.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
So that's it for the second readings. Now for first readings, ordinance 4300-19, an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 226-30, on-street handicap parking, delete 83 Ambrose Street. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption and first reading and posting and publication in accordance with law and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 at 7 p.m. At the Municipal Complex.
Motion for introduction.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So this is this was a handicap parking spot essentially dedicated to a house on 83 Ambrose that is no longer needed, and it will no longer be a handicap spot if this is passed on September 24th. Do we have any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4301-19, amending the code of the Township of Franklin, Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, providing new section 26-35, road closures except for emergency vehicles, providing for the closure of Meadow Avenue to all traffic except emergency vehicles. The following ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have-
Motion to introduce.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So if you go down Bennington Parkway to the very end, you come to Meadow Avenue, and it goes left and right. Left brings you into the first ward, right brings you into the third ward. Probably to non-political people, that means nothing. To the right, there are houses. To the left, there is a pump station. We are not closing the one that goes to the right where all the houses are. There's about 5 or 6 houses there. You will still be able to get to your house. We are just making the gravelish road going to the pump station no longer a public road. And any other discussion?
Yeah, so, Mr. Mayor, just to highlight this, is that this is an attempt to, over the past couple of years, it's become a dumping ground for a lot of waste, and it's making it difficult for the authority employees to get to the pump station. even just to do daily routine tasks, but especially in an emergency. So this will help. Well, this should, in theory, try to help cut down on some of the waste that's being dumped there, the garbage that's being dumped there, and help try to keep that area clean.
Okay, any other discussion?
The only adjacent property on this street is state-owned and the Sewerage Authority, so there is no privately owned properties. It's part of 6 Mile Run.
Any other discussion? Clerk, do your job.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yep.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Time for the consent agenda. Items A through O is listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting are presented to Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item or highlight an item?
Item number B, Resolution 19387.
Want to pull that, discuss it? What do you
Just
want?
have the township manager explain it so that people understand it.
I'm sorry, I was talking to
Item number
Councilwoman
B,
Francois.
the body armor grant.
It's for body armor for the police officers. It's a grant for body armor.
Don't look at me, look at the
Doesn't
council.
get, I don't know that it could be any
No,
more
did
detailed
we-
than that.
Did we apply for it, or how does that
Well,
work?
that's what it's for, authorizing a grant application.
So
We
that's
haven't
all we
applied,
did.
all grants that we apply for, you have to say we can apply for them before we do that.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Can't we just say apply for any grant you want from now on?
No.
Okay, good idea. Any other items? Then, Madam Clerk, it's your turn.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Now we have items to be voted on separately. A through C is listed on the resolutions to be voted on separately. Portion of the meeting are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion?
Motion for A through C.
Even though it says ABB.
It does.
On mine, it says A, so I have a kind of a different version than you. I have
But we know it's ABC.
ABC, A through C. What'd I say?
You said ABC, but it says A. Ours says ABB. It's just a typo.
It's a good thing you have tenure. Okay. I think we have.
Yes, we did.
And if the camera goes there, never mind. All right, enough frivolity. Does anyone want to pull any item or discuss any item separately? In that case, Madam Clerk, please call our name nicely.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Item number 16, old business, 2019 boards, committees, commissions. Does anyone have any nominations? Hearing none. We have no executive session. Oh, you didn't leave me my script for the, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Be well, Franklin.